This is the Louie T Network. The journey is long, and nobody said it was going to be easy. But all we got is us. All that believe is us. The Redskins Report. Welcome, all my fellow Redskin brethren and sistren. I am your man and resident Redskins fan, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on the Redskins Report. Dressed in all black like the Omen, you know what this is. You know how this goes. We took another one, flush on the chin. But this was one of those games that, as a Redskins fan, it's extremely upsetting because week in, week out, we find ourselves in this type of position, a winnable football game on the road. Doesn't really matter, home, away, doesn't matter. We find ourselves in a position, winnable football game. If we eliminate the mistakes, the penalties, the turnovers, we give ourselves a chance to win. Instead, we make the same mistakes that we make routinely on a weekly basis, and we throw the football game away. And it's frustrating as a Redskins fan, but I can't say that I'm not used to it. It's not something that is surprising to me. It shouldn't be to you. It's something that we watch on a weekly basis. We watch this football team self-destruct every single week, so this should not be surprising to you. And if you're looking for a thorough review of the game, I'm not doing that today. To me, there's no reason for me to do that. I'm going in a different direction because at 1-5, I don't know about you, but I feel like this season is done. And the thing that I always ask the fellas before the season starts is that you don't have me watching meaningless football too early in the year. And again, this was one of those years that I thought we were actually going to be good. You know, I'm more of a hope for the best, expect the worst type of guy. I've been trained to think that way as a Redskins fan. So, of course, I go into the season very hopeful, but in the back of my mind, I know things aren't going to go the way that I want them to go. That's usually how I go into a season. Well, this season was a little different. I said Robert Griffin III, whole offseason to rehab. That was last year. Didn't need to do that this year. This year, the focus was on the playbook. The focus was on the mechanics. The focus was on getting better. I said that we went out and got Deshaun Jackson. We went out and got Andre Robbins. We went out and got better as a football team. We went out and got Jason Hatcher. We're getting Keenan Robinson into this lineup. We went out, we got a veteran like Ryan Clark to man up that back half of the defense. You're getting younger at the cornerback position. You go out, you get Tracy Porter, who I thought was going to be a huge addition. He hasn't even really played yet. So all of these things that I thought were going to be huge upgrades for this football team has turned out to be minimal upgrades in the grand scheme of things. And we haven't been a good football team. We've had a couple of injuries. Jason Hatcher hasn't been the same since about week 2 when he sustained that injury against Jacksonville. Robert Griffin III got injured in that same game. Haven't seen him since. So we've had some things happen that have sent this season spiraling in the wrong direction. But I can sit here and give you all the excuses that you want to hear and make you feel better about our plight. But at the end of the day, none of that stuff matters. I want to talk about the play of some of these players in this particular game and what this team looks like moving forward and what to expect from this team as we continue to try to just, I don't really know if this is an evaluation period now. I mean, at 1-5, it's one thing if you're 1-5 and the rest of the division is struggling like we thought that this division was going to do going into the season. If the division leader was at 3-3 and you're 1-5, you're still right in the thick of things. But Philly's 5-1, Dallas is 5-1, hell, the Giants are 3-3. And you know what was so sickening to me is you get, after a while, you get tired of watching the other teams in your division flourish, and you're stuck at the bottom. You want to tell me what was hurtful for me this weekend was watching Sunday Night Football. Okay, forget about the Dallas Cowboys and their huge win against Seattle. I give credit where credit is due. The Cowboys took care of business. Look, the thing that was hurtful for me was watching that Sunday Night Football game, Philly hosting the Giants, and watching them talk about how the NFC East is back. Remember, we were the laughing stock, or one of the laughing stocks of the league. They were calling us the NFC least and all of these different types of names last season when we couldn't get it together and we were fighting over a division title that everybody made it seem like wasn't worth having. Well, now all of a sudden it's a resurgence in this division, and the Giants are 3-3, and they at the time were 3-2, looking to try to win their 4th consecutive game. The Cowboys are 5-1. The Eagles were looking to move to 5-1. They were 4-1 at the time, and they were talking about how statistically and by wins and losses, this division was the best division statistically in terms of wins and losses on the season. And they kept showing the standings in this division, and of course, it hurts when you look and they're talking and speaking so glowingly about our division, yet you look at the list and, of course, who's bringing up the rear? Who's the one team that the rest of the teams in the division are dragging along like a dead carcass? It's us. Philly's 5-1, Dallas is 5-1, Giants 3-3, and here we are bringing up the rear at 1-5. A measly, a morbid 1-5 on the season. They talk about, you know, the division and how no one's repeated as division champion since 2004 when the Eagles won 3 straight from 2002 to 2004. They talk about all of the division titles, and they put everybody's division titles up there. Giants had 3, Eagles had 3, Cowboys had 2, we had 1. 2012, that was it. I feel like we're still living in the past. They talked about Super Bowl victories and how in the NFC East, this division as a whole has the most combined Super Bowl rings of any division. Cowboys with 5, Giants with 4, we have 3, Eagles have 0. And I look around and I said, but when's the last time we won one of those things? You know, you got to go back to the early, I'm talking about 1991-92 season. I mean, we got to stop living in the past, man. I'm tired of talking about 2012. I'm done with 2012, man. I'm ready to move forward. I'm ready to be a winner again. And it's frustrating because now the division is back and we're not a part of it. And we won't be. I mean, let's face it, the only thing that we have left now is the fact that we can spoil some things for the Cowboys. We can spoil some things for the Eagles. And that's it. You know, we got the Giants one more time. We got the Eagles one more time. We got the Cowboys twice. Matter of fact, I think we got the Cowboys in 2 weeks on Monday Night Football, if I'm not mistaken. But, I mean, who wants to play spoilers? And we're not even halfway through the season yet. And we're already talking about wrecking somebody else's season. Doesn't that get old? Doesn't that get tired to you? I mean, this is sickening, man. And to be 1-5 on the season, we had a legitimate shot at winning this football game, getting to 2-4, and still having a season worth talking about left, and we blew it. Let's talk about some things that I took away from this game. And I got to start with being jerked around by Fox. I don't know about you. I got jerked around by the Fox network, and I wasn't happy about it, okay? They took me to the ending of Cincinnati, Carolina, and I saw them make the field goal. Carolina made the field goal, send the game to overtime. It was 4:23 at that point. I don't need to go back to Cincinnati when you come back to go to overtime. I don't need to go back there. I have a game. I've already watched Packers and Dolphins. I watched that game to its conclusion. Now you need to take me where I'm supposed to go at my 4 o'clock game. It's 4:25. My game is about to start. I need to go there. I don't need you to take me to Carolina and Cincinnati and make me watch. And of course, go figure, Redskins play at 4:25. The one time the Redskins are on at 4 o'clock and are slated to come on, you got to have an overtime game that decides to go the entire overtime period and end in a tie. And they want to keep me there for the duration of that game. I was sick to my stomach. I said, look, come on, Fox. Don't do me like this. All right? This isn't my game. It'd be one thing if I started the day with Carolina and Cincinnati, and this game goes to overtime and I got to stick around. I get that. I understand it. My game was Green Bay, Miami. I didn't have Carolina, Cincinnati as a 1 o'clock game. I had Green Bay, Miami. Aaron Rodgers took care of that for me, made sure that that game ended when it was supposed to. Now I'm supposed to go to Arizona and watch my boys. Not go out to Cincinnati and watch a fifth quarter of football that took up the entire first quarter and some of the second quarter before I got to Arizona to see that the score was 7-7 and had no clue what was going on in the football game up until that point. Shame on Fox for doing that to me. I don't know if that happened to you. It happened to me, and I wasn't a happy camper. But forget about all of that. I just want to talk about some things. And I'm going to start with the coaching staff here because I haven't felt like the coaching has been an issue for a while in Washington. Not since the days of Jim Zorn. You can say what you want about Mike Shanahan, and sure, we might have been outcoached a couple of times, but I always made the direct correlation between wins and losses with the fact that we didn't have enough talent. That was always my crutch. I could always say, hey, that team's just more talented than we are. I never chalked it up to coaching. I always blamed the players. I always blamed the lack of talent. Well, I'll contend, and I know we still don't have. I have gotten a rude awakening this season because I may have overstated how talented we were. I thought we were more talented than we were. And I still contend that offensively, when healthy, we've got one of the most dynamic offenses in the league. I think, and I'll talk more about that when I get to the players, but I think I may have overstated how talented we were. And you know, sometimes you drink the Kool-Aid, man. You get sucked in to the preseason hype. You watch some of these guys that flying around, and you kind of get sucked into the hype. And I can't lie, I fell victim to that. But I still think that this is a talented football team. And sometimes I feel like the coaches let us down. As fans, as players, I think they let everyone down sometimes. And there are instances where I feel like, okay, you can't do that. As a coach, you can't. That can't happen. That can't happen. Where are the adjustments? Why is this happening instead of this? Why is that happening instead of that? And there are too many times this year where I find myself saying that where I didn't say that in the past. And it's funny because I want to reference my man BFG. And he did a video before the season started basically giving you a season outlook on how he thought the Redskins would fare. And he gave a record. And he said, hey, man, this is a first-time head coach, new coaching staff. You know, a lot of the guys remain intact, but you got a lot of new guys coming in. You got a new coach who's never been a head coach in this league before. There's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be some struggles. And I think it's going to cost us some football games. Is essentially what he said. And I wasn't trying to hear that at the time. I was like, man, look, Jay's been around his brother, who was a head coach, and he was with him in Tampa Bay. He's been a guy that ran an organization in the Arena Football League. He's been in control of things before. This shouldn't be new to him. I expect him to make this seamless transition from offensive coordinator to a head coach, and there shouldn't be any situation where he feels like he's out of place or that he doesn't know what to do in a particular situation. And having a guy like Jim Haslett on your staff who has been a head coach should help him with that transition. I just felt like everything would be fine. But I'm seeing bad challenges by Jay Gruden, which, you know, bad challenges lead to, you know, timeouts being wasted. And then you're kind of gun shy later on in the game when you might need to challenge something because you've already used the challenge. You use another one. Even if you're right on the next one, if you've been wrong on the first one, then guess what? You don't get another challenge. So then you're kind of gun shy with the challenges. And then there were situations in this game, and there have been situations in all the games where I'm just like, why did you do that? I'll give you an example in this game. 3rd and 1, okay? Redskins are with the football, trying to get a drive together. They're down 7, 20-13. 3rd and 1. And at this point now, I want you to do one of two things, okay? If you're going to throw it, I want something quick out of the hands of the quarterback, pick up the first down. Or 2, I want you to hand the football to Alfred Morris, which to me is option 1. 3rd and 1, if we can't pick up 1 yard with Alfred, then we don't need to pick up the first down. But if you're going to throw it, which the Redskins elected to do here, fine. If you're going to throw it and you're going to throw a bubble screen, I need to know this. Why is Deshaun Jackson Why is Action Jackson on the side of a proposed bubbles, any kind of screen? I don't give a damn what it is. If he's being asked to block, that's a problem for me. If you know that you're calling a screen to that side of the field and you need guys to block, he should not be one of them. Period. You got Jordan Reed, Niles Paul, Pierre Garçon. All of these are viable candidates and options to have over there on the same side to block. Deshaun Jackson is not. He's the one guy you don't want anywhere near the play if someone has to block for a play to work. And so we go 3rd and 1, and we run a stacked formation, and Deshaun Jackson is over there as one of the receivers that needs to block. We throw a simple bubble screen, Dre in the slot, runs backwards and behind the line of scrimmage. Kurt throws him the football, and before he can even take 2 steps, there's a defender there to tackle him for a 2-yard loss. You want to know where he came from? He came from in front of Deshaun Jackson, who olayed and allowed him straight into the backfield, easy access to Dre for a 2-yard loss. We got to punt the football. So my question is, why is Deshaun Jackson over there? You know he's not a capable blocker. He's not a willing blocker. So in my mind, that's bad coaching is what that is. That's bad coaching. Because you know the execution is going to be flawed because you put a guy in a position to fail. Why would you do that? That's bad coaching. To me, that's bad coaching. And you look at the game plan for this week. Okay, obviously, you know, no one intended for Vitamin B to have to start this early into his career. Nobody intended. It was supposed to be D.A. and D-Hall. One on one side, one on the other side. Well, in this game, of course, Vitamin B has had to start ever since the injury to D-Hall because Tracy Porter hasn't been able to get off the shelf, which I was saying, hey, look, Tracy, I need you, man. I need you to get healthy. This is why we brought you here. Tracy hasn't been able to respond, so Vitamin B has had to start. And then I come to the game late. I come to the party late because of Fox. And I find out when I get there, hey, D.A., he's gone with a concussion. So now you got E.J. Biggers on one side, and you got Vitamin B on the other side. What the hell are we supposed to do with that? So, okay, I get it. I understand that you got liabilities out on the edges now at the cornerback position, and you got Michael Floyd and Larry Fitzgerald on opposite sides. That's not good. But guess what also isn't good? 3rd and 14, and you're playing 15 yards off the ball. That's not good. You know what happens when you do that? You give up 15 yards in the first down on 3rd and 14. You know what else isn't good? 3rd and 8, and your corners are 10 yards off the ball, and you give up 9 yards. That's not good. You know what else isn't good? 3rd and 6, and your corners are 10 yards off the ball, and you give up 9 yards. That's not good. That's bad coaching is what that is. Okay? Sure, players can execute better, but that's bad coaching. Get up on the receiver, especially when you're blitzing. We can't generate pressure. That's something else that's very disappointing. The fact that, you know, Rack is out there and we're paying him all this money and we've dumped all this money into trying to get pressure on the quarterback. Anybody getting pressure? You let me know when you find out if somebody's getting pressure, because I've watched every game this season. I haven't seen anybody generating any pressure. You can go ahead and tell me about Ryan Kerrigan's, 6 sacks that he has on the season. I'll tell you 4 of them came against Jacksonville and that putrid offensive line. I'll tell you another one probably came on a bot snap against somebody where he just walked into a sack because he wasn't blocked on the play where the ball was snapped before he was, you know. Look, what I'm basically saying is Ryan Kerrigan isn't a game wrecker. I've already told you that numerous times. Kerrigan is nobody's game wrecker. He's a really good football player, very smart, and he's a guy that is supposed to be the second option on the team. He's the Robin to somebody's Batman. That's why Rack was supposed to be the guy, because Kerrigan can feed off of that and be the other guy. But Kerrigan is not the guy. And the problem is we don't have the guy. We don't have a guy that can get to the quarterback, and you're paying so much attention to him. Now Kerrigan is getting one-on-one over here and he's winning. We don't have that. We don't have that in Washington. We don't have anything. And so that's frustrating, but I'm going to talk about some players individually, and then I'm going to get out of here. I don't want to keep you here longer than you need to be. D-Jax, looking at him in this game, I've seen some of the same things that I've seen from him all year long. You got the 64-yard touchdown. Beautiful. He almost dropped that. I know you saw that he almost dropped that ball, went from here to down here, but he was able to corral it. The speed is undeniable. His ability to get in the end zone, again, undeniable. The guy is a huge play waiting to happen. 42 yards wide receiver screen, should have scored on it, and it's bad. This is when I know it's bad in Washington, when we have a big play like that, and I'm yelling, get in the end zone, get in the end zone, because if you don't, we're going to have to settle for a field goal. And what happened? We didn't get that touchdown. We had to settle for a field goal. And that's when you know it's bad in Washington. And poor Chris Chester, just get the hell out of the way. I blame D-Jax on the play anyway, because I wanted D-Jax to just go ahead and sprint across the field. Your speed is greater than any of those Arizona Cardinal defenders. And you already had him running, all over the place. Just take off across the field, and you would have walked into the end zone. Instead, he tried to stay tight to the blockers, ran into Chris Chester. Chris Chester makes a tackle, and we have to settle for a field goal. That was frustrating, but we're the Redskins. That's what we do. We tackle our own man and have to settle for a field goal instead of getting a touchdown. That's what the Redskins do. And his blocking is putrid. He has no interest whatsoever in participating in blocking anybody that's in the run game, that's in the screen game, any of that. So that's one of those facets of the game where he either needs to be improve on that greatly, or they need to get him all out of the field of play or off the side of the field where the action is taking place, because he is a liability when it comes to blocking. Pierre Garçon, we need to use him more. He was heavy in the screen game in this game, but not enough. I need him to touch the football more. The guy's a playmaker. Why are we running him on such deep routes? I've said this from the time we got him. He's not a deep threat. He's a guy that you run, and we used him beautifully in 2012 when we first got him. Across the middle of the field was his calling card when we first got him. Remember that big play against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving in 2012? Where he caught the football, it was a throw behind him, had to reach behind him, got the football, got down, and accelerated past the Cowboy defenders into the end zone. Remember that play against the New Orleans Saints? First game of that 2012 season. Robert, remember the griffining? When Robert's on the ground like this? He was on the ground like that because he threw a strike to Pierre Garçon over the middle of the field on a dig route. Almost a post of sorts. Why don't we run these routes with Pierre anymore? Everything seems to be either a short pass at the line of scrimmage or a deep route down the field. Use Pierre is one of the toughest guys with the football in his hands, yards after catch. Get him the football, whether it's a short, shallow crosser or a dragger, or it's a dig route over the middle of the field, or it's a post, a slant. We don't even run slants with this guy. Get Pierre Garçon the football. I shouldn't have to beg for this man. We throw the football to Dre more than we do Pierre Garçon, which is a farce. Get Pierre Garçon the football, man. The kid, he blocks. He does everything you ask of him, and he's not touching the football enough for me. Nowhere near the amount of touches that he's supposed to have. This was a guy that had over 110 catches last season, and right now he's not touching the football. He's not impacting the game the way that he should. Dre. I like Dre. I don't love Dre, but I like Dre. But every week he drops a pass that he should catch. Every week there's something going on with Dre. The Giants game, it was the fair catch where we're still asking, is there a Giants defender within a mile of him? Fair catch in that game. Then you have this week where he fumbles. It wasn't a fumble. That was an egregious call. We can sit here and blame the officials. That was a bogus call. And the bad part was now New York gets involved. So even if the officials miss it, New York is supposed to say, hey, that's not a fumble. I mean, how many angles do you need of this man's knee on the ground with him still having the ball in his possession before it's ripped out? Either way, he's not supposed to fumble the football. He can't fumble the football there. I always say this, don't put the flag in the officials' hands, okay? I say that about penalties. I say the same thing about calls like this. Don't put a judgment call in the hands of the officials, because you know these officials don't want to make a mistake. So whatever was called on the field, I've heard referees say this all the time. It's a stands league. Whatever's called on the field, unless there is an unbelievable amount of evidence to show the contrary, they are going to stay with the call that was made on the field. I've heard ex-officials say this time and time again. This is a stands league, And whatever was called on the field, they're going to keep it that way unless there is irrefutable evidence, no doubt about it, that that play was called wrong on the field. And so that was sickening, though, because the game was still within reach at that time. And to give the Cardinals the football on a bogus call like that, what can you do? I mean, again, if he doesn't fumble, we're not in that position, but they need to get that call right. That was egregious. They have to fix that. There's no way that the Cardinals should have been awarded. And I don't want your little apology from New York, oh, we got that wrong, we're sorry. I don't want that. That doesn't do anything for me. Get it right. Get it right. That's why a replay is there. Get it right. And they got it wrong. But I haven't been that impressed with Dre since early in the season. I thought he was going to impact the game greatly on special teams. He's done nothing on special teams. He's starting to do the whole, and it's funny because when we get our hands on these punt returners, initially they're going north and south, and it looks great, and we get excited. Richard Crawford did the same thing to us. You know, when we first got our hands on Richard Crawford, you know, that one return against the Ravens in overtime in 2012, great. He went up the field. Big return, and like, man, we might have something on punts. Then he started doing, and it goes to your head. Patrick Peterson, the one-time great return man for the Cardinals, did the same thing. When he first got in the league, everything was north and south. He was trying to get up the field. He was breaking tackles, scoring touchdowns. And then it got to his head. Every return needs to be a big return. So you start running east and west. You start running laterally instead of vertically, and then you start getting tackles for losses, and you start, you know, 7-yard gains that probably could have been 27 if you would have just went up the field. And I think Andre Roberts is doing the same thing now. When we first got him, everything was straight up the field. He was going up the field. Now it's sideways. He's trying to go sideways and running out of bounds. It's just, I'm not really feeling Dre right now. I need more out of him. And I just feel like as an offense, we've got guys that can do some things, but we need to put them in better positions to help us as a football team. Speaking of which, Jay Reed! Good to see him back. And just in case you forgot how much of an impact he can have on this football team, he just reminded us again of how special and gifted an athlete and a talent he is. 8 catches, 92 yards in this football game. And the kid is, no doubt about it, the best athlete we have on our football team. When he plays, the question is, can we keep him healthy? You know, I feel like every time he touches the ball, I hold my breath. I'm like, man, get up. You know, don't get hurt. If we can just keep Jordan Reed healthy, he's going to make a huge difference for our offense because nobody can cover this guy. Linebackers, safeties, corners, nobody can cover this guy. He's a mismatched nightmare. And you saw it on Sunday with this game against the Cardinals. They couldn't do anything with him. I mean, every time he touched the football, he was making plays. And I feel like if we can just keep him healthy, he will make a world of difference moving forward offensively, especially when we get Robert back. I think we'll be able to exploit him even more when we get an athletically gifted quarterback back there that can make some things happen. We'll see what happens, but we've got weapons offensively. I thought that he showed once again why we were so excited about the prospects of him, Pierre, and Djax being all on the field at the same time with this offense. So then you go to the offensive line. I thought the offensive line was okay, but the run blocking has been an issue all season long, and especially the last 2 games. This is another issue with coaching that I have, is Alfred keeps having 13 carries. And you can sit here and tell me that the run isn't working, but some of these plays that they call for the run, I mean, let's be frank here. Our offensive line isn't one of the best in the league. We know that. But this is the same group. This is the problem that I have. These are the same cats we've been rocking with since 2012 when Alfred Morris hit the scene. The only guy that's not here any longer is our ex-center that's now in Denver. And we don't miss him at all. It's the same 4 guys with Sean Laval plugged in now. You know, some of the positions have been switched up. You know, Lichtensteiger no longer at left guard, he's now at center. But look, that's nor here nor there. The fact of the matter is, it's still Columbus, it's still Williams, it's still Lichtensteiger, it's still Chester. Same group of guys, man. You just added a new piece in Laval. That's it. Same cats we've been rocking with since day one. And all of a sudden, we can't run the football. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And so, my issue with this is, 1, some of the plays that we're calling. 2, we don't run read option. We brought this to the league. We made read option famous. We did that. Not the 49ers with Colin Kaepernick, not the Seahawks with Russell Wilson. That was us. We did that. The only cats running that was M. Pimp Juice and us. We did that. And all of a sudden now, we can't run read option. Kirk can run read option. Robert can run read option. That will free up lanes for Alfred Morris to run the football. I don't want to hear that Arizona is the number 2 rush defense. I don't want to hear that Seattle is the number 1 rush defense. I don't care. Run the football. And 13 carries, not enough. Not enough. And truth be told, I don't know if Alfred has had a game this season where he's had over 20 carries. Maybe one. I can't tell you what game that might have been. Maybe it was Philadelphia. I don't know. But I can assure you that if he did eclipse 20 carries, it's only been once this season. We've played 6 games. I don't think he's eclipsed 20 carries, but maybe one time. And I need proof of that. And like I said, if it was one game, it was probably that Philadelphia game. I need to see Alfred touch the football more on the ground. And it needs to be runs that have been successful in the past. We're trying. Did you see us trying counters in this game? We're pulling Chris Chester and we're pulling Niles Paul. What are we doing? This isn't Joe Gibbs counter Trey offense. What are we doing? That's not what we do. Again, coaching. Again, coaching here. What are we doing? We're a stretch zone run football team. Okay? Zone run blocking scheme is what we do. It's what Alfred Morris does. One cut and go, much faster than slow. Stick your foot in the ground, make it happen. We're trying all kinds of nonsense. What do you expect the results to be? That's not who we are. Be who you are. And that's part of the problem that we have. We don't have any identity. Who are we as a football team? Can you tell me? What do we do? What's our bread and butter? Obviously, it's not Alfred Morris in the running game any longer. At least we used to be able to hang our hat on that. Can't do that anymore. Is it the passing game? Yeah, Kirk Cousins had well over 300 yards and another 3 damn interceptions. So is that our strength? No, it's not our strength. What is our strength? What do we do well? What's our bread and butter? What's our identity? You don't have one. And until you get one of those, you're a bad football team. So you move on to Kirk Cousins. And, I mean, what do you want me to say? 3 more interceptions. This is the way I feel about Kirk Cousins. I used to want to trade him. I used to want to get his trade value up so I could get a 2nd round pick for him. Or a 3rd round pick. Well, that's out of the window. Nobody's trading anything for Kirk Cousins anymore. So you know now what I want to do? I want to hold on to Kirk. I want Kirk to stay in Washington because you know what I see Kirk as? I see Kirk as a wonderful backup quarterback. I trust Kirk as a backup quarterback. I still do. Nothing's going to change my mind. And my mindset has always been the same from day one. Kirk Cousins is one of the best backup quarterbacks in the entire National Football League. When you try to make him a starter, these are the results that you get. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I know Kirk Cousins. And when I said this, I had a lot of Redskins fans saying, how do you know what he's about? How do you know what the ceiling? I said the ceiling is right here. I see the ceiling. I know what it is for Kirk Cousins. Okay? I've seen this movie before. I know how it ends. I've already rewinded and I'm taking it back to the store. I don't need to watch the movie again. I know how it is already. With Robert Griffin III, the ceiling, I can't even see it. But again, you got to stay healthy. But I've been trying to explain that to people for the longest. And here's the situation with Kirk. Kirk Cousins is a guy that when you put just the right amount of food on his plate, and this analogy, food is play calling and pressure. When you put just the right amount of food on the plate, Kirk, he'll eat, man. Kirk will eat, and he'll be fine. He'll make throws. He'll be on time. He'll get you in and out of the huddle. He'll make completions. He'll make a beautiful throw to Deshaun Jackson for a 64-yard touchdown. He'll make a beautiful throw down the field, and he'll wow you. You know, like that throw against the Seahawks down the sideline. You know, he'll wow you with some of his throws. We saw the full Kirk Cousins spectrum against the Eagles. We saw the full spectrum. How good he can be, how great he can be, and how bad he can be. We've seen it all in the span of one game. We've seen the lowlights, which was that Giants game. We've seen the highlights. Look, the problem is when you overflow his plate, and that's when the pressure gets its greatest. When you ask Kirk Cousins to come out of his comfort zone, which the comfort zone is keep everything status quo, don't ask him to win you the football game, run the football, take the pressure off of him, and just make him part of the reason why you win and not the reason you have to win the game. When he's a part of the solution and not the solution, he can get it done. And that's why I think he's a backup quarterback. Because backup quarterbacks are good because they can come in and help you win a football game. They're not going to win you a football game. That's where you get the clear delineation between starter and backup. Starters can win you a football game. Backups help you win a football game. And that's the difference right now. Kirk Cousins can't win you a football game. When the game is on the line and you got to have it, Kirk Cousins' plate is too full. And he's starting to eat too much. And now his plate is overrunning with too many responsibilities, and he's got to be the guy. Now he's going to start to regurgitate. Now you filled him up with too much stuff. Now he's got to throw up. Now it's time for him to vomit all over himself, and that's when you get the interceptions. So you got to keep the plate nice and clean. You got to keep it where it's manageable, where he can eat his little veggies and can cut up his little steak into little squares, and he can eat it and digest it all. When you put all of this stuff on his plate and you tell Kurt, hey, I need it, man. 3rd and 6, game on the line, I need it. Need this first down, Kurt. Kurt's going to panic. He's going to throw the football behind his receiver. He's going to airmail it right to a defender. He's going to make a read, a bad one at that, throw the football anyway, even though he knows he's not supposed to go there. He's going to panic. That's what Kirk Cousins does. So none of this is surprising, but you know what? I still have confidence in Kirk as a backup quarterback. I want him on the team as a backup because I know if Robert Griffin III sprains an ankle and has to go back to the locker room to have it taped up and we don't see Robert Griffin III for a quarter and a half, I know Kirk Cousins will come in and he will light it up for a quarter and a half of football. We've seen him do that before. We saw him do it against the Ravens. We saw him do it for a whole game against the Cleveland Browns, but guess what? In that game against the Browns, he didn't have to win us the game. He was a part of the reason we won the game. That's why he was able to go out and help us score damn near 40 points. If we didn't score 40 points that game. He was part of the reason we won, not the reason we had to win. And that's the problem, is I think Jay Gruden and his offensive staff is putting too much pressure on him to have to win the football game. Anytime he's chucking the football 40-something times, there's a problem there. There's a disconnect. There should be 25 Alfred Morris carries, maybe 21 and 7 or 8 Roy Halou Jr. carries, and his total of passes should be way down to the low 30s, mid 30s at most, instead of 47 passing attempts. We weren't out of this game. We were never being blown out to the point where we had to abandon the run and he had to just take to the air and every down was a pass. We were never at that point. So very frustrated indeed. Roy Halou Jr., I would love to see us get him in the game a little bit more and throw him the ball on screens. I think we do a wonderful job. This is the first time in a long time I've been able to say this about the Redskins as a football team. We do a wonderful job of screening. Our screen game has gotten immensely better. I remember when we were a terrible screen team, we didn't run them first and foremost. And when we did, we weren't very good at it. Now, every time we run a screen, we pop a team. Roy Halou has popped at least 3 screens this season. He did one against Philly. He had another one in this game. He's been excellent at running the screen game, and I think we need to do that more. We ran the screen game with Deshaun Jackson, 42-yard gain, should have been a touchdown. We ran the screen game with Pierre Garçon in this game. He was picking up chunks of yardage. We need to run the screen game more, and Roy Halou Jr. is a guy I'd like to see touch the football in that capacity. He's got to get better at pass pro, though. He lets us down week in and week out with his pass pro. Whether he's whiffing on a block or he just doesn't know his responsibility, you got to take the guy that's the most dangerous. Block, and he did the same thing on the punt when we got it blocked against the Texans. It's not necessarily in that position where he didn't block the guy that was the most imminent danger. It was just, he whiffed. He whiffed. I need him to be better at pass pro. If you're going to be our third down back, the guy that's in the game, protecting the quarterback, I need you to do a better job at picking up the blitz. Vitamin B. Look, I commend the young fella. You expect growing pains. You expect him to struggle. And that pass interference on him, that was a terrible call, man. Come on, officials. Look, we're a bad football team. You can't do us like this. So You know what? I'm not going to complain, though, because on Monday Night Football, we got all the breaks when it comes to calls. Against the Seahawks, we got all the breaks. We got all the calls in our favor, so it kind of balances itself out. But this was an egregious call. This is a terrible call. Pass interference right before the half. We were getting off the field. That was a 3rd and long situation. He did nothing wrong on the play. They called a pass interference on John Brown. Come on, guys. Seriously, really? Stop that nonsense, man. Don't do this to us. We don't need extra guys on the field against us. It's bad enough we have trouble with the 11 that's opposite of us on the field. Don't make it 12, 13, 14, 15 guys against us at once. Don't do that. Come on, officials. Don't do that to us, please. And he was playing way too far off in this game. But again, is that scheme? Are the coaches telling him to do this? Is he doing this on his own? I don't know. E.J. Biggers. Look, I never wanted E.J. Biggers back on this team in the first place. If you remember my video before the season started, when we were basically talking about all of the guys that the Redskins should bring back that were free agents and all the guys that didn't need to be back, he was one of those guys that I saw no reason to bring back. He does nothing well, nothing solid. We move him around as if this guy's a chess piece. He's not a safety. He can't tackle. He's not a cornerback. They talk about his speed all the time. What speed? What are you talking about? He does nothing well, and I had one of those moments in this game on that Larry Fitzgerald touchdown where all he had to do was come up and tackle him. I had one of those I want you off my team moments. And every now and again, I get a little frustrated, and I have those moments where guys who I feel like are dead weight, I just want them gone. Get off my team. You know, I get animated. I want you gone. I've calmed down since Sunday, but the sentiment remains the same. He doesn't need to be a Redskin anymore. But if he remains on the team, you won't hear me complain, but I wouldn't be sad to see him go. He serves no purpose at all. He had one good play, and if Carson Palmer leads the receiver instead of throwing the football behind him, he doesn't make that play either. He was burnt in this game. He was terrible. He can't tackle. He's always out of position. He can't play zone coverage. He can't play man coverage. He can't play safety. He can't tackle. Well, what the hell can you do? I don't know, but E.J. Biggers is a liability anytime he's on the field, and that I can't get with. Can't have guys that anytime he's on the field is a problem, and you got to keep an eye on him. Really, he just needs to go. I'm done with E.J. Biggers. I don't want him on the squad anymore. Brian Orakpo. I thought he played well, but again, no sacks. He got pressure, but what have we been saying about Brian Orakpo his entire career? He gets pressure. He just never gets sacks. He gets held. He just never gets sacks. Unless he's playing the St. Louis Rams or the Oakland Raiders. He played those two teams all year long. Hell, he'd have 20 sacks in the season. If we could alternate weeks where we played the Rams and the Raiders, Brian Orakpo would have 27 sacks. But when we play anybody else, we're on our own. And I'm a big boxing fan. I don't know if you've ever heard of Roberto Duran, boxing champ. You know what his nickname was? Hands of Stone. We should call Brian Orakpo Hands of Stone, man. I mean, damn. What more you want? I mean, Carson Palmer literally threw this man a pick six. I don't know if he scores because, again, they were inside the Redskins' 10-yard line. Brian would have had to have run about 95 yards. I don't know if he had enough gas to get him all the way down there, but hell, he would have had a heck of a return, though. We only got 4 interceptions. Can you believe that? 4 interceptions on the season. Oh, wait, it's 4 turnovers total. 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles. On the season, 6 games, we only got 4 forced turnovers. I know teams that have done that in 1 game. Man, we're pathetic, especially when it comes to turnovers. Well, this is the last year we're going to have to put up with Brian Orakpo. Just know that. And Kerrigan, I thought he had a great tackle on 3rd and 1. They tried to go bootleg. He was able to stay with his assignment with the tight end, slam him down on the ground. He injured himself. I think they said they checked him for a concussion protocol. He ended up coming back in the game. I thought he had something wrong with his shoulder. I saw him grasping at his shoulder at one point, but I don't know, man. It's frustrating, dude. I mean, we're 1-5, man. We're going into week 7 and we're 1-5. Can you wrap your brain around what I just said? We're 1-5. And we're about to play a 1-5 Tennessee Titans team. and I don't even have the balls to be able to say, hey, this is a winnable game. You know why? Because Tennessee, they're a 2-win team. Excuse me for docking them a win. They're a 2-win team. And you know how when you're a bad football team, but you think you're better than what you really are, and you look at other teams on the schedule and say, hey, we should be able to win that game? Who are we to look at somebody on our schedule and say that that's a winnable game? Teams look at us. We're that team that teams look at on their schedule and say, hey, that's a game we got to get. That's an easy game. We need to win that game. That's us. We're that team. Nobody wants to be that team, but we're that team. Because 5 times this year, we lost. We've been that team. And again, I say this over and over again. We've played some quarterbacks that will give it up. Ryan Fitzpatrick, Chad Henne, Eli Manning, Carson Palmer. These are all quarterbacks that will give it up. Nicholas Foles has been sharing this year. We haven't gotten in on any of that action, man. We're not good enough. We are not good enough. And the sad part is, it's always hard to admit that you're not good enough. But we are not good enough. And so, that's going to do it, man. I talked way too long. I'm sorry. I apologize. But I had a lot on my chest. I mean, I really did. And so, I am a Redskins fan, etched in burgundy and gold. Redskins spirit will never die. Redskins spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, hail to my beloved Redskins. I don't know where we go from here, man. I mean, we got literally 10 games left, and all of them, with the exception of the divisional games, are pointless. I mean, what do they mean? What do they mean in the grand scheme of things? We're not winning 10 games in a row. Stop that. Don't do that. You know, don't do that. We're not doing it. So I'm not even going there with that. I mean, and even if we were to win 9 out of the next 10 games, we'd still only be 10-6. And the Cowboys and the Eagles are halfway to 10 wins already. And, man, I'm done, man. I'm out of here. Have a good one.
The Redskins Report.